Hello, my name is Larry Winston Collins. I'm here to talk about my new exhibition entitled They That Matter. And these are portraits honoring victims of extreme deadly force by the police. There's 20 works in this series of portraits, some of the most notable cases in the U.S. I guess I started thinking about this series back after the Trayvon Martin case back in 2012. I think the verdict really caught me off guard, as with a lot of folks, and I think it started me to thinking about how I could do something to respond to what's been going on in the country with mostly black men being shot by the police. Other cases sort of caught me off guard too, like the case of John Crawford III, who was shot at a Walmart in Beaver Creek, right here in Ohio, for walking around Walmart with a toy gun, mistakenly for a real gun. And then another case that kind of hit home was the case of Samuel DuBose, who was killed by University of Cincinnati police for being stopped for not having a front license plates. So in all those cases, the verdict really kind of just made me start thinking that, wow, what's going on here, And so, I started thinking about other cases, like the case of Anton Sterling, Freddie Gray, Eric Garner, and all these cases made me think that, hey, I probably need to do some type of expression of the way I'm thinking about these things. So I started thinking about what's the best way for me to express this, And so I remembered, long back when I lived in Columbus, Ohio, I was walking home one day and I came across this shrine that was actually built on the street right there on the east side of Columbus. And it was a shrine to this young man who I believe was killed by a drive-by right there on a street corner. And so people have actually laid out different objects like candles and flowers. And there was a photograph of this young man on a cross that was placed right on the corner of this building, And so, I stood there and kind of studied that for a while, just trying to get a sense of who this young man was. He looked like he was probably in his teens, maybe like 17 or 18 or something like that. But that sort of stuck in my mind. And then I thought about this other series of works that I did back in 1995, a series of works called All for the Cause. And that series was a series of 33 portraits that were portraits of people who were killed during the civil rights movement, And so those frames and portraits were some things that I started to think about, And these were portraits of, people that, you probably know, some that you probably didn't know. Martin Luther King, of course, Medgar Evers, Emmett Till, Goodman, Chaney, and Swerner. Let's see, Ida Mae Collins, Cynthia Wesley, Carol Robinson, and who's the Carol McNair, I think. Yeah. So, but those 4 little girls who were killed during the bombing of the church. So I thought about that series of works, and I thought that was a fairly successful exhibition. And so I wanted to do something that was similar to that, because those frames and those portraits, they were done in these very eclectic type styles with a lot of found materials and things like that. And so, I thought, okay, how can I sort of do something similar to that, but maybe on a little bit larger scale, as far as the portraits and things. And so I remember that. And then another thing that happened was that I found this magazine at a thrift store, which I like to go to thrift stores. Uh, and so this magazine had it was a Newsweek magazine, and it had Black Lives Matter on the front cover. And you know, I'm familiar with the Black Lives Matter movement, but I thought this would be a good magazine to check out. So you know, reading the articles in the magazine, you know, it was articles about a lot of the many different shooting cases in the U.S. and the different verdicts and stuff. And so, you know, just reading all those different stories and things like that, then I, you know, started building up sort of a reference of different people that I can use for this series. And so that was very useful in my creating of this series of works. So, like I mentioned, that you know I like to go to thrift stores, so I like to use a lot of found objects and things. You know, like a lot of found wood pieces that I, you know, find different places like salvage yards and things like that, and then finding like plastic decorative pieces that you know you can use, and then using different kinds of metals and stuff like metal cans and stuff like that to kind of cover the surface and get some different types of surface expressions and things. So I started creating all these portraits and things, and I wanted to do some that were sort of a little bit more two-dimensional, like drawings, and then I wanted to do some that were a little bit more sculptural, like three-dimensional wall sculptures. And for those, you know, I wanted to kind of take a look at the portraits of these different persons and kind of do something that was a reaction to their faces and things like that. Some of those ones that are the three-dimensional sculpture ones are painted. The portraits are painted in plaster. So it's sort of a style that I've actually been doing for quite a while, working with plaster and actually carving in plaster and building up the surface. Sort of similar to back in my printmaking days when I was doing these different plates called collographs, and just building up the surface and then using the surface to create embossed prints. So I really like that technique, but I like the way the actual buildup of the surface actually worked as paintings also, you know. And so I wanted to do the portraits sort of similar to that and try to make them look like they were precious, like they were ceramic. And so those are actually done in that particular style. I guess what I wanted to do with this exhibition is, you know, I didn't really want to make an exhibition that was depressing, you know, but I wanted to do something that was in remembrance of these different persons, and you know, hopefully, you know, by seeing them, then we try to start understanding what's going on in the country these days. You know, I thought that it would be good to see all of these at one time instead of, you know, like a lot of times we see one case here, one case there on the news. But I think by seeing all of these at the same time, then we start to understand what's going on in this country, and we try to get an understanding of the bigger picture. So that's a little bit about what my intentions were with this exhibition, and I hope you enjoy seeing this. All right, thank you.